What is up, everybody? Welcome to the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. And I guess we got to talk about it, right? Late breaking news. It's actually from back on, Saturday, May the 28th. Injury has stricken our world's heavyweight champion, Matt Cardona. Doesn't look like he's going to be ready for Alwayz Ready. That's taking place on June the 11th in Knoxville, Tennessee. This is kind of strange grounds for the NWA. Nothing like this has happened in recent history. Nothing's happened recently where our champion has been unable to compete. Now, we don't know to the extent of the injury, but we did hear from Matt Cardona via Twitter earlier today saying that he did have a tear and is going to require surgery, and that he'll have to cancel some dates. Now, that could be very misleading. We don't know what dates he's going to have to cancel. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. But here real quick, we did catch some video of the actual incident that took place at Game Changer Wrestling, over in Las Vegas, Nevada on May the 28th. You can see Matt appeared to be in a lot of pain. You could tell that that landing did not work well for him. He was wrestling against Christian Blake. He was able to continue the match, but that injury is pretty severe. Now, I hate to be that guy, but we do know that there is a history of the Cardonas faking injuries. I mean, even as recently as on Impact recently, just earlier this year, Matt's wife, whose name I'm just drawing a blank on right now. That's great. Matt's wife, the hot mess, I'm still not getting there. She feigned an injury. Chelsea Green feigned an injury that her arm was busted again. And so we don't know for sure what's going to happen. Everything we do right now is we're speculating on what could and could not happen. It's wild, right? In the past, the world's heavyweight champion has been diligent about defending the title throughout the United States. We can go as far back as the first title reign of Nick Aldis or Tim Storm, or even the second reign of Nick Aldis, and you would see that these title defenses didn't just happen in an NWA ring. No. They happened all over the country. Nick Aldis benefited from the relationship with the United Wrestling Network, so he was able to defend the title in Hollywood, which took him to China. He was able to defend the title in the House of Hardcore, which took him to Australia. He was able to defend the title really in a lot of independent wrestling promotions all throughout the United States. Whereas with our current champion, Matt Cardona, it appears that, mostly his title defenses are coming from the NWA. When he's not working for the NWA, he's working with promotions like Game Changer Wrestling pretty regularly, or AIW, or Create a Pro Wrestler. And none of those matches have been sanctioned by the National Wrestling Alliance. None of them have been world title matches, with the exception of the title versus title match at ASW in Virginia. So, we don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, it's a freak accident. No one was planning for that. And if it's a legit injury, then, it really does suck, because the NWA is going to have to shuffle their cards, right? We were looking at Matt Cardona versus Nick Aldis, playing off of what happened at Crockett Cup 2022, where it would be a little bit disingenuous to say that Matt Cardona won. He won with a very, very suspect way of winning, which involved the Cardona family coming to ringside, Chelsea Green coming to ringside. And it was just really, sorry guys, just plugging some devices over here. Really disheartening for this kind of injury to happen this close to the pay-per-view. So we don't know what's going to happen. I will say this: if they decide to do a tournament, a mini tournament, which when they crowned a new national champion after Chris Adonis abdicated the title, they basically had like two triple threat matches with the winner of each taking on each other in a singles match. And that wasn't I wouldn't say that was the best way to do it, but I mean that was one solution that they found. And you look at the roster. Tyrus is literally one win away from having an opportunity to challenge for the World's Heavyweight Championship. Jax Dane, by nature of being your national champion, is the number one contender for the 10 pounds of gold. Nick Aldis was made the opponent for this pay-per-view by decree of Billy Corgan. But let's not forget that Colby Corino still has a shot at the World's Heavyweight Championship. A title of his choice, as well as Velvet Sky. Remember, Velvet Sky was the captain or co-captain, the legend, if you will, of the initial championship series, which we saw that, Jax Dane took advantage of to become World's Heavyweight Champion. Trevor Murdoch, let me rephrase that. Jax Dane became national champion. Trevor Murdoch used that authority, that cash in, if you will, to become World's Heavyweight Champion. He kind of pushed, he forced the decision-making process for Billy Corgan for the 73rd anniversary show when he defeated Nick Aldis for the title. So, I mean, that's just one option with several guys who would fit the bill. I mean, again, if you go Tyrus, Jax Dane, and Nick Aldis, I mean, there's three guys there. And then, of course, Trevor Murdoch, Colby Corino, and perhaps somebody that is anointed by Velvet Sky would all have a claim to that title. So that's one way they could do it. I mean, they could do a battle royal. Hell, they could do an interim championship. I know that doesn't sit well with everybody, but there are so many different ways that they could approach this. And, unfortunately, they're all wrong because the match that people wanted to see was Matt Cardona versus Nick Aldis. It is a death match. Stranger things have happened. I mean, if you look back at some of the extreme death match icons, you look at Mick Foley, who's fought under really, really bad physical health. We know that Sabu had a broken neck at one point, and he ripped up his arm in a barbed wire match and continued. So I don't know how far or what Matt Cardona is willing to do here. Our pal Heeb suggested in the chat, let me pull that up because I think that's a pretty good idea too. Heeb says, I heard Matt Cardona is going to hire Titan, who is formerly known as, what was his name in the WWE? Adam Schriff, Braun Strowman. Titan, Braun Strowman, who's now known as Titan. Heeb says that he heard Matt Cardona is going to hire Titan to defend the world championship like a mercenary. I mean, I'm not entirely against that. They could get creative with this. It's a death match. If he shows up and has the Cardonas just tear him limb for limb, Nick Aldis, and then just puts a foot over him, I mean, it's a death match. But if the injury is severe enough, he's not going to be able to compete for a while. So it remains to be seen. I don't know. It's so many things could be happening here. Like I said, it could be a work. If it's a legitimate injury, he might play through the pain just to get the pay-per-view through. Or it could be a complete legitimate injury, and everyone's just trying to figure out what's going to happen next. I haven't seen an official statement from the National Wrestling Alliance just yet, so we're all kind of waiting and seeing. But it is late breaking news. This is a news and information podcast. We do talk about these things, and I can't just ignore it, right? And you guys, if you're going to stay tuned later this evening to the NWA podcast, they might have some answers on that show. Or if you want, you could come back to this podcast, and later this evening, we'll be speaking to former NWA head official, referee of the year for 4 years in a row. I'm talking about Jeffrey Capo. He'll be joining us in the hour after Power, if you guys would like to come back and join us, as we will have an interview sessions with Mr. Capo. But yeah, real bummer, man. Real bummer. Whether you liked Matt Cardona or not, whether you like Nick Aldis or not, no matter what direction the NWA was going to go at this pay-per-view or beyond, continuity is always nice. And if there's a break in that continuity due to injury, it's never a fun experience. And of course, you know, Matt Cardona makes his living in professional wrestling. If he can't wrestle, he's obviously not earning money. That's really rough too. With that being said, I want to say hi to my friends in the chat. I see Willie Bowen's in the house. Bobby Batito's here. The great Hisa's here. Heaves is here. Wrestling with the MMA is here. Willie Bowen. Oh, I already said Willie. Terry McDermott's here. Michael Manning's here. Doty's here. If I missed anyone, sorry. We'll get to you later. But yeah, this is what's going on, man. This is real life stuff. So, Doty says, if they go with a mini tournament, I don't want a triple threat. I want a gauntlet match. So it still has that one-on-one feel. I'd be all right with that. It's kind of hard too, though, because they just got off having a pay-per-view with a tournament in it. In fact, it was 2 nights of tournaments. So I don't know if that's going to be a deciding factor in what they do going forward. You know, the option is always to have a battle royal. Oh God, I hate that. Hell, I mean, I remember one time they crowned a world's heavyweight champion by doing an 8-way elimination match and then introduced a 9th opponent at the last minute. That worked out wonderfully. Willie Bowen seconds that love for the gauntlet match. Terry McDermott does the same thing. Heaves wants Dirty Dingo as your next world's heavyweight champion. Oh, man. You might see my head explode if that happens. Bobby Batito says he's looking forward to watching Rhett Titus wrestle tonight. That guy can put on a clinic, and we know how good Thom Latimer is, but he hasn't been on a winning streak as of late. These are 2 guys that will really benefit from a victory tonight, so we'll have to wait and see. It'll be interesting. Terry McDermott says Jax Dane versus Tyrus would be the easiest way to do it. And then Nick Aldis would face the new champion. Yeah, I mean, look, Jax Dane has his hands filled with Chris Adonis for the national title. You've got Mims and Tyrus wrestling for the television championship. You know, one guy who never got his rematch was Trevor Murdoch. You know, Trevor Murdoch never got an opportunity to wrestle the former champion once he lost the title, and that's usually mandatory. Most world champions have to defend against the former champion. I'm not saying that's always the case, but it's relatively been the case in the NWA. You know, Nick Aldis refused it, right? Like he said, he didn't want to challenge Trevor Murdoch for the title. Tim Storm got a rematch. Nick Aldis got a rematch against Cody Rhodes. So I don't know why Trevor Murdoch wouldn't be the ideal choice, but you know, again, there's so many moving parts at the moment. Look, the Pope had a great match against Matt Cardona, and you know, you could wiggle this in if you had Velvet Sky anoint Pope as the number 1 contender because she has that cash in prize. Hell, Colby Carino has that prize. Why not just cash it in himself? You know, unless he's the new junior heavyweight champion. I mean, who knows? Michael Manning says, I don't know what a death match in wrestling is, but it doesn't sound too good. I mean, so death match wrestling, you could go back easily and look at the International Wrestling Association matches in Japan, where it was like a slew of monsters from horror films taking on the likes of Terry Funk or the recently deceased Tarzan Goto, or Mr. Ganosuke, or Mick Foley, of course, Cactus Jack. Those matches were like laced with barbed wire and explosives and, you know, light bulb tubes. And I mean, it's the sort of thing that you really wouldn't expect that the NWA would be associated with. But, you know, I mean, even as recently as just a few weeks ago, Billy Corgan said that he wouldn't mind working with Game Changer Wrestling. So, you know, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, man. It's all out there, man. This is a wild, you know, it's funny because I remember in 2018, you know, Dave Lagana said, you know, if you think this is crazy, you know, just watch 2019. It's going to be wild. And then we said the same thing for 2020, and just each year just gets more just outstanding than the next, and not necessarily in a positive manner, but just so wild. It's not really predictable with what will happen. I mean, you've got wrestling promotions not only kicking down the forbidden door, but just making a back doors into other promotions. We're seeing it happen more and more, like AAA working with Impact, AAA working with AEW, hell, AAA working with the NWA. I mean, so much stuff could happen. Who knows, man? It's a wild time to be a fan of professional wrestling. That is for sure. The great Hisa says, unless Cardona is faking this injury, I hope he won't be stripped of the title. I believe the continuation of the lineage brings a better reputation of the title. 100%, Hisa. I totally agree with that. I think if you strip him of the title, I don't like the idea of stripping anyone of the title. I get it due to injury, but he's not going to be injured forever. And the idea of an interim champion to me makes sense, but then I also heard the detractors say, well, are you a champion or are you not a champion? If you're the interim champion, then you never really held the real title. You were just a Band-Aid until the problem got fixed. I don't know if that's true or not, or I don't know how I feel about that or not. And then he also says, after all, Corgan and Lagana kept Tim Storm as a champion when he was virtually unknown outside his home ground. Exactly. The NWA is very patient. We can say that. Billy Corgan's been very patient with his champions. We always give Nick Aldis a lot of credit for taking that title around the world, but most of those title defenses were just matches that Nick Aldis was booked for already. China, he gets credit for that. I mean, really, Dave Marquez gets credit for it, but if Nick Aldis was the world champion of Impact, he would not have gone to China. It's the fact that he was the NWA world champion. It wasn't the United Wrestling Network world champion that was crowned in China. It was the world's heavyweight champion, the National Wrestling Alliance world's heavyweight champion. So we do have to give him credit for that. The whole Australian tour, he had already been champion for over a year and a half at that point. Half a year at that point. So maybe those matches were just made title matches. I mean, that's certainly a possibility, but more likely he was a world champion and Tommy Dreamer saw value in that. Doty says, if the injury is legit and so severe, then he should be stripped, like it or not. Again, we don't know the extent of the injury. Can he swing a barbed wire bat? Can he swing a kendo stick? Can he function in halfway in a wrestling match? It's a death match. We're not expecting him to do body slams and arm drags. We're expecting him to do violence, to do violent things if he's able to compete. And if he's not able to compete, well, then obviously, yeah, you're going to have to do something. But if it's a death match and he can somewhat do some things, I mean, there's ways around it for sure. He says, yeah, if it's serious, he'll be out for months. Well, there you go. There it is. Michael Manning, he says it'll be a few months. He says, what about a season-long tournament? Okay. All right. That's not a bad idea. You don't have your top prize filled, but that's not the first time the NWA has had a vacancy with the 10 pounds of gold for a long extended period of time. Remember when Shane Douglas won the belt, it had been almost a year after the WCW and National Wrestling Alliance had split. And remember when he won the title, he famously tossed it down. It was almost another year before Chris Candido was made champion. So it's not like they haven't had periods of time where that title wasn't crowned. And then also keep in mind, even back in 2007, when the NWA stripped its affiliation with Impact, TNA, that title lay dormant for several months in 2007. It wasn't a year, but it was several months. It was I believe the title was stripped at Bound for Glory, and then the title was crowned, I think, in late September, early October. So yeah, it's wild. Viva Bobby Batista says Viva Van is wrestling tonight on AEW Dark against Mercedes Martinez. Yeah, props to Viva Van. I know that they did a lot of tapings out here in not out here out here on the West Coast, but in Las Vegas, not where I'm at. And you know, a lot of SoCal talent. I wouldn't be surprised if they appear on a lot of these shows. Lamb says if Dirty Dingo wins the 10 pounds of gold, we need a Velvet After Dark too. God, please no. No. Matt Chris Drummond says, so let's just strip Cardona of the title and just so Nikki James can win again. Well, look, Chris, I blame you partially for this injury because you keep hyping up your boy Matt Cardona and he keeps winning all these championships, and it's not healthy to have that many titles in one bag that he has to lug around all over the airports. I mean, look, up until recently, he was the Impact Digital Media Championship, the New York City Wrestling Championship. He is still the Absolute Intense Wrestling, or the AIW Absolute Champion and Intense Champion. I don't know what the difference is between the belts, as well as holding the 10 pounds of gold. And I forgot the ASW Heavyweight Championship. So the guy's got tons of titles in his bag, and that's probably caused his injury anyway. It wasn't no Christian Blake. It wasn't no GCW. It was that damn duffel bag with all the title belts in it. Blame them. Bobby Petito says AJ Gazana wrestles against Mims on NWA USA last Saturday. Tyrus was on commentary last Saturday on NWA USA. Yeah, I do believe that Tyrus is just going to be filling out the commentary for all of the Power Trip episodes because he was there. I don't think he actually wrestled while he was at Power Trip. I think he was just there in that capacity. They did advertise him signing autographed copies of his book. If you were so inclined, I'm sure you could have gotten an autograph of Tyrus's best-selling New York Times bestseller. I guess. I don't know. I know he wrote a book. I don't know what it's about. Dodie says, oh, yeah, rest in peace, Tarzan Goto. Yeah, I was actually trying to write about that. It's really weird. In 1996, in 1995, the NWA had crowned tag team champions in NWA Dallas, which was the promotion of Jim Crockett Jr. And the promotion was at the Sportatorium, but just wasn't pulling in the numbers that they were hoping it would. And closed its doors down. Now the Rock and Roll Express were your world tag team champions. They took those belts and did one match against PG-13 at USWA. After that match, though, the titles were basically just left to, fade to obscurity. And around that time, you had Tarzan Goto with the Headhunters from IWA come to the United States, wrestle a few matches with ECW, wrestle a few matches with Dennis Corluzzo's new NWA Championship Wrestling America. And I think that's probably, I'm guessing here, I don't have these as facts, but I'm guessing that's probably when they decided to send Severin to Japan to have that title match. And I also believe that's probably when they got the okay to crown the tag titles, because a month later you had Severin in Japan wrestling against Goto. And that same card, by the way, Severin wrestled Yoshihiro Tajiri for the 10 pounds of gold. He defended that title against Tajiri. But going back to IWA Japan, then you had the tag team titles crowned there in 1995. And also later in the year, you had the Wrestling Yum Factory, or as Dodie has once educated me, the Wrestling Dream Factory, where they crowned the World Junior Heavyweight Championship. So at the same time, the NWA had influence in two different wrestling promotions. Wouldn't be long before the World Junior Heavyweight Championship would be absorbed into the Super Crown, the J8. The J Crown, the Super 8, the infamously you'll see the great Sasuke or Ultimo Dragon holding all 8 titles. It's very, very awesome looking. It's kind of what Matt Cardona looked like when he was holding all his belts. But these were way more important because they represented some of the best wrestling promotions on the planet. These weren't just indies. I mean, at that point, NWA was basically just an indie, but it was the New Japan's Junior Heavyweight Championship, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, and at one point they would even add the WCW Cruiserweight title to that. So I mean, it had a lot of luster, to say the least. Lamb says, don't forget the stupid light tubes. Yeah, sorry, I forgot about the stupid light tubes. Rick Del Santo's in the house. I hope you guys are checking out Rick's podcast. He just interviewed speaking of the World Junior Heavyweight Champion, he just interviewed the Boston Bad Boy, Jason Rumble. Jason Rumble famously held the title last before Rocky Romero won the championship and then took that title to Japan, right? Again, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and donned the mask of Black Tiger Mask 4 and feuded with Tiger Mask 4. Which was a pretty exciting time for the NWA and for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And that doesn't happen again unless there's the Boston Bad Boy. Lamb says, after Velvet, after dark, I want everything. Everything went wild in the NWA. Yeah, it sure did. Paladin says Double or Nothing was great. I did not see Double or Nothing, but I know that CM Punk won the championship. My guy Samoa Joe lost to Adam Cole, Bebe. Adam Cole and his wife both won that Owen Hart tournament, which is great for them, I guess. I know that our former Women's World Champion, Thunder Rosa, retained against the other former Women's World Champion, Serena Deeb. A lot of fun stuff at that pay-per-view for certain. Terry McDermott says, I saw one match once with Brass Knucks, and it was too bloody for me. Yeah, man, that's not my cup of tea either. Famously, XPW, which was so desperately wanted to be the heir apparent for Extreme Championship Wrestling out here in Southern California. I had gone to a few of their matches. Famously, I was at the show where New Jack tried to unalive somebody, and I wasn't a huge fan. I mean, they had a lot of good talents there. Of course, Sabu worked there while he was the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. Chris Candido, Shane Douglas, both worked in the XPW, as well as guys like Chaos, Messiah. There's quite a few good talents that were in that promotion for some time, but again, it was never really my cup of tea. Paladin said interims are paper champions. Yeah, man. I mean, that's something to definitely consider, right? If they go with a paper champion, excuse me. Whoa, you see, you already got in my head. If they go with an interim champion, I mean, what does it set up? Obviously, a match between Cardona and whoever the interim champion is to unify the belts, which is kind of a neat moment. But if Cardona wins the title, what does that mean for the asterisk now? You know what I mean? Like, let's say it's Nick Aldis. Let's say Nick Aldis and the Pope, of all people, wrestle for this interim title. Then if Nick Aldis has that interim championship and then goes on to wrestle Matt Cardona and loses, what does that mean for Nick Aldis? Was he a three-time NWA World's Heavyweight Champion? Was he only a two-time and held the interim title? And what does that mean? It is very confusing. I will say that, and I don't have an answer for you guys. I don't. He says, speaking of tonight, I'm looking forward to Matt Vine's debut. He was the first indie I watched in person that seemed legit. Now, Heaves, you probably know a lot more about Matt Vine than I do. I know that he does wrestle in the Midwest territories, mostly specifically like in Chicago, where he was part of Chicago style wrestling, later would debut for PPW. And I know he's been spending most of his time over the last 4 or 5 years working for Ohio Valley Wrestling. So I'm excited to see what Matt Vine can do. I heard some of his promos, and the guy is pretty good on the mic. I think he does bring something different that the NWA. Well, I don't even want to say it's different. It's something that kind of fits the mold of what Billy Corgan is looking for in this NWA. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens next. Willie says, Terry, that was in Houston, Texas at the old Sam Houston Coliseum. I don't know what you're talking about. Bobby Batuta says, I'd like to see more of Joe Alonzo in the NWA. I'd like to see him wrestle in the junior heavyweight division. Yeah, I mean, Joe Alonzo, I think, surprised a lot of people. To me, though, that match felt more like an indie match with him and Scion. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, right? I don't think having a different style is a bad thing. I'm just saying it's something that I'm I don't know. I don't think it's awful. Terry McDermott. Oh, you guys are still talking about the death matches. Willie says, Oh, sorry. I'm going to skip those. Sorry, guys. It's not to be rude. I just want to keep the flow of the conversation going. Dave Scooby says it's his right arm, maybe limited in using it. Maybe have a mixed tag death match with Mickey and Chelsea involved. All hell breaks loose and the title's held up. That might be one way to go. Bobby Batista says Maserati wrestled yesterday on AEW Dark Elevation against Mercedes Martinez. Yeah, Maserati is another Las Vegas-based talent. She's just done some work out here in SoCal too. Chris Drummond says maybe Aldis paid the guy off to injure the Deathmatch King. Yeah, that's the angle. Let's put it all on Christian Blake. Let's say that's the problem. Willie Bowen says when Tyrus loses his TV title, he can go back to his old job as a futon. Willie, I love it, brother. You're hilarious, man. Bobby says he wants to see Max the Impaler versus Killian King. That would be a fun match. Dodie says, despite most of our antagonism, I don't think I know that word. Antagonism towards deathmatch. I guess that just basically means we don't like it. Already have history of the NWA. They once had death matches in IWA Japan as their member, which gave us Severin and Tarzan Goto. But that was a straight up match, though. It's just Goto was trying to cheat, I think. Willie Bowen wants to see Laredo Kid versus Homicide or Colby Corino. Lamb says doing the interims champions and 2 championships is an AEW thing. Would it be a good thing if NWA copies that? I don't have an answer for you, man. I really don't. It's kind of a wild thing at this point in time. Bobby Batista says, I watch Matt Vine wrestle in OVW. How do you think he holds up? Do you think Bobby or Heebs, because you guys have seen him wrestle, you think he's going to fit in the NWA style? Heebs says, I think Vine has had gold in OVW. Over at PPW where Rockin Randy Ricky is the head trainer owner. Matt Vine is the hands-on guy that trains the students. Okay. So he's got some experience. I know that he was trained by Rockin Randy as well, so. Dodie says, maybe Tyrus after dark. God, no. Please, don't give them ideas, Dodie. They might use them. He says PPW is the same school Sky Blue started at before she moved into Chicago and blew up. Well, Sky Blue is a very talented individual, that's for sure. Bobby Bagillo said Brady Pierce wrestled against Jay Bradley and lost last Saturday on NWA USA. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I'm looking forward to it. Jay Bradley's a talent for sure. Knox isn't booked yet. Have him wrestle in Cardona's place. Boom. There it is. Maybe not even wrestle in his place. Maybe he just comes out and does the dirty work, right? Because, look, it's an arm injury. It's not a leg injury. Cardona can walk, and he doesn't have to climb through a cage. He just has to step through the ropes. And if you bring out somebody like Knox or VSK or Brian Myers or all three, show a backstage scene where they lock the Commonwealth Connection in the locker room and then have that death match. There are ways around it. I don't know how creative they're going to be. They might just scrap the whole match, but there are ways around it. Terry McDermott says Sal still needs help. That's for sure. Sal's Willie Bowen says no, Dodie. It'd be called Tyrus the Total Blackout. Tyrus the Eclipse. Bobby Petito says Matt Vine has potential. Again, I've only heard him cut a promo. I haven't even seen him wrestle, so I am looking forward to seeing what he can bring to the table. But with that being said, let's look at some of the matches we're going to have for tonight on POWERRR Trip 2, Electric Boogaloo, night number 2. Of course, we are looking at, this looks like a fun show. Like, just looking at the poster, it looks pretty exciting, looks interesting. Now, we know that the first match here is Eric Jackson versus Matt Vine. Now, Eric Jackson, I did a search on him, and you're not going to find a whole lot. We know that he did make his debut in the NWA back in February when he ate a clothesline from Jax Dane, which pretty much ended any hopes or aspirations of him living. Somehow he managed to survive, and now he's taking on Matt Vine. I think Eric Jackson may be a student of Tried and True Pro Wrestling because the last time he was in the NWA was also at one of these Oak Grove, Kentucky shows, the Power Trip. So it would be very easy to believe that he did make his residency with Tried and True Pro Wrestling, and of course the aforementioned Matt Vine. A lot of talk on this chat right now about Matt Vine. Again, solid promos. Let's see what he brings to the table. What he does in the ring. Has a great look. We'll just have to wait and see what he can do in the ring. And then, of course, we've got this match is going to be a Styles clash, and you hear some of the talking heads talk about pro wrestling, and sometimes it's the Styles clash that makes the match. Rhett Titus is, part of that foundation, part of that pure wrestling style that was encompassing Ring of Honor towards its dying days. He is a former Ring of Honor television champion, and he's taken on Thom Latimer, who, let's face it, Thom has been kind of down on his luck as of late. He was out with injury for some time, was unable to advance in the national title tournament, was unable to advance in the Crockett Cup. Great athlete. Promos are okay. 60 Seconds with Latimer was kind of, but everything else about Thom Latimer has been pretty good. We'll see what happens. And both of these guys could benefit from a victory tonight. Rhett Titus has been kind of more associated with the junior heavyweight division, but don't let his size fool you. He is a ring technician, and he can absolutely pick apart injured body parts. And if he can find a weakness, if anyone could find a weakness in Thom Latimer, it'd certainly be Rhett Titus. Let me check some of your comments here. Lamb says, turns the NWA title match to a multi-tag and introduce 6-man tag belts. We need more titles. Oh, I'm supposed to do that. That'd be odd. I don't want the 6-man titles. I think the NWA, as it stands right now, is loaded with championship gold. We keep looking for what are they going to do with Hex, right? They finally have some decent. I shouldn't say decent. They have some really good tag teams, and we can see the tag team division thrive if they continue to push it the right way. The television title has been an absolute joke for 298 days. Tyrus is approaching 300, and that title has become so meaningless to me. The national title is certainly starting to feel super important again. Adonis had that belt, lost it to Mayweather. Things were looking really up. Mayweather drops it to of course, our pal Jax Dane, and I just can't wait to see what Dane's going to do with this title. It'll be very telling of what the NWA has in store for Jax Dane. If he drops the belt back to Adonis for Adonis winning for a third time, I think it tells you that they don't really see anything serious in Jax Dane. However, if Dane goes over, I genuinely believe that they have some big aspirations for the former World's Heavyweight Championship. Let's see. He says, listening in his car. Thank you. He said, do appreciate that. He says, Matt Vine has several 30-plus minute Broadways on my YouTube versus my dude Chase Gosling. Solid guys. I mean, there it is. I mean, Heebs doesn't lie, man. Heebs telling you right now, Matt Vine is legit. So any complaints with Matt Vine, you take those up with the kayfabe universe. Just kidding, Heebs. Terry says, anytime you have a match for the World Junior Heavyweight Champion, it's a good night. Yeah, I mean, look, Homicide's gone on a really good run, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. We'll talk about that matchup in just a minute. Doty says, since the NWA now has a junior division, so people like Warhorse or Mike Outlaw seems more compatible with the NWA now. Time to add more St. Louis flavor to the NWA, now against Chicago and Tennessee guys. I mean, it's funny, right? Because Warhorse, I've never seen him up live and in person, but I always got the idea that he was a heavyweight, like a big dude. And then when you see him, he's not that big at all. It's kind of a false advertising. Bobby Battista says he'd like to see Savannah Stone wrestling in the NWA. She's been impressing him in the United Wrestling Network. I believe Savannah Stone wrestles out in Memphis. The other matches that we have for tonight, of course, is that World Junior Heavyweight title match. And that is going to be this should be good, man. This should be real good. We're talking about a division, a generational rivalry. Famously, Homicide and Steve Corino, the feud that they had really helped carry the early days of Ring of Honor. In fact, it's legitimate. It's true. Homicide one time slapped Carino, and I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but hit him so hard that Carino lost hearing in one of his ears. So it's now you have the son of Steve Carino, the son of the King of Old School, the son of a former world's heavyweight champion, taking on Homicide, and an opportunity to win the junior heavyweight championship, a belt that Steve Carino never won, but did wrestle for the world junior heavyweight title, or excuse me, the junior heavyweight title of more than a few NWA territories. So this is kind of a big deal. And again, this feud has been carrying on for so long. I'm excited to see how this one plays out. Colby Carino, your last bastion of pro wrestling. I mean, that's probably the worst nickname I've ever heard. I would have just called him Junior Old School or King of the Preschool. I don't know. I'm joking, obviously. But Homicide has been very good since becoming World Junior Heavyweight Champion. We talked about it last week. He's defended the title about 5 or 6 times already that we know of. And there may even be more that we're unaware of. But the guy's just been so crisp in his ring. In the ring, he's had great matches with drawing a blank all of a sudden, right? Had some great matches with Doug Williams. Now I can't think of any more matches that he had, so now I have to go look. Now you guys are with me on Cage Match. We're gonna find out together here. Who else did he fight? He fought. Man, my brain is not working. I know he fought Peter Avalon, but that wasn't in the NWA. Let's see. I'll pull him up right now. Black G's. The match against Black G's was very good. The match against Austin Aries was very, very good. Rhett Titus was a good match. Tony Deppen. I didn't see it, but I've heard a lot of good things about Tony Deppen. And of course, he had to beat Austin Aries, Colby Carino, and Darius Lockhart to get to this point. So, I mean, needless to say, he's worked for that title, and he's brought a lot of notoriety to the championship belt. Sometimes a title will make a champion, and sometimes a champion will make a title. And I think with Homicide, he certainly lends a ton of credibility to a new division that the NWA hasn't recognized since 2017. Until somebody beats 50 caliber Barrett Brown, there's always going to be a question mark in my head, but we'll see how it goes out. Bobby Matito says, will Jay Spade get his opportunity to wrestle? I don't know, man. Jay Spade, I don't know what happened with him. He was supposed to get that shot at the title, and then never happened. It just disappeared. And apparently he wasn't there for the TV tapings, but he was there for both nights of the pay-per-view. I mean, they could have done a dark match, I guess. I don't know. Sean Mega agrees that Homicide is solid. I do agree. Like, Homicide's good, man. And I feel like anyone who doesn't respect or validate what Homicide is doing, and like, Homicide isn't a young man either. He's in his 40s, right? I'm going to look it up and tell you right now how old he is. He is, he's 45 years old. And that's no spring chicken in the world of professional wrestling. That is not a young man by any stretch. But what he's able to do out there in that ring is be competitive, have some very good wrestling matches. I'm excited to see more of what Homicide can do, and hopefully he has a few more matches in the tank. And I don't want to see him hang it up anytime soon. I really would like to see him wrestle against his former tag team partner, B-Boy. B-Boy is a guy out here in Southern California. If you guys aren't familiar with B-Boy, wow, very important to the genesis of combat zone wrestling. Did a lot of stuff out in the Northeast. Was one of the first West Coast guys to really make his name out there on the East Coast. I think the world of B-Boy and his styles would blend very similarly to Homicide, and I think they could have an amazing match if someone would book it. Willie Bowen says, will Darius Lockhart get a shot at the World Junior Heavyweight Championship? I mean, Darius Lockhart seemed to disappear just like Jay Spade. We haven't seen Darius Lockhart since he fought against Rhett Titus. Excuse me, guys. Got a little dry there in the throat. Sean Mega says, forget Barrett Brown. Bring back America. Yes. All right. I'm in. We can do that. I'm in for that. I'll support that one. Doty says the Wildcat guys seem absent on the entirety of this season. Hopefully they will return next season, and of course Jay Spade finally get his shot, and maybe we won't see the last of Darius Lockhart. Yeah, I mean both those guys I thought were very talented. Would have liked to see more of them. But again, there's only so many hours, so much time, and I guess Sauronaro has some sort of contract where he needs to be on every other episode along with Colby Carino and the Gags guy. Makes me want to gag. Doty says the junior title seems missing for Alwayz Ready somehow. Yeah, Doty, I noticed that too, and I think that's because they didn't want to give away the results of this matchup tonight. Now, I mean, look, I don't know who wins. I looked for spoilers on this one. I couldn't see it. I looked for it. Couldn't see it. I think that maybe we have a title change tonight. I think maybe Colby Carino is your new junior heavyweight champion. They just don't want to advertise it because they want tonight to feel special. I could be wrong. I probably am wrong, but it wouldn't surprise me. And if we have a new junior heavyweight champion, I won't be shocked at all. Sean Mega says Homicide versus Low Key. I mean, Homicide versus the world. Like, if I was booking this division, that's what I would do. All of these guys. Hell, Low Key, B-Boy, Rocky Romero, Ricky Reyes. Hell, Danny Limelight. Bring the best junior heavyweights that are out there. Why the heck not? Willie Bowen says Homicide's old tag team partner Hernandez. Jake, how do you think he'll be a great addition to the NWA Power? I like Hernandez a lot. You got to remember, Hernandez is a former national and North American champion as well. Never held the 10 pounds of gold, but certainly was one of those top contenders. However, it seems like he's kind of in bed with MLW at the moment. And the same thing that would prevent like a Danny Limelight from showing up in the NWA, I think, is working MLW. Now, we know that that a talent like Ty Valkyrie was able to cross that, those lines, those distinct territorial lines. But I think, with somebody like the stature of Ty Valkyrie, I think can work anywhere she wants, and no one's going to tell her otherwise. But I don't think we'll see Hernandez showing up. Hot Stuff Hernandez, man, that guy was so good. I remember seeing him as a 6'4" dude who was built very, very big and doing tope suicidas. I mean, I know that would drive the Control Your Narrative guys crazy, but seeing a dude do that at his size, the only other guy that I could even think about doing that was The Undertaker, and you think about him as being one of the greatest of all time. So there's my 2 cents. The mayor says Jake Howe is low-key B-Boy's manager, does the Bill Alfonso role in his matches and everything. I have a whistle. Come on, daddy. Come on, baby. Could you? That would be the worst thing in the world. Although there was a time, and you have to go onto my Instagram account, the Alliance blog, Instagram at the Alliance blog, that B-Boy had a match against the main event, James Morgan, United Wrestling Networks. It was an open door challenge. I think at the time he might have been the Heritage Champion or the TV Champion. And B-Boy grabbed me out of the audience and had me Irish whip himself into James Morgan. The funny thing is I'm very close with James Morgan. His manager is also someone I consider a friend, Stu Stone. So it was just bizarre, but it was fun. It's the closest thing I've ever been to a pro wrestler. So that was one of my favorite times. If I can pop your granddaughter, man, that's all that matters. You guys know that we reached 1,000 subscribers. I do. Again, I've been very grateful for that. You guys don't know what that means to me. The support that you've given me. Look, this podcast, this YouTube channel started 4 years ago. And I did not know what I was doing when I started the channel. I did not know where we would go with this, right? I thought this was just going to be for fun. I never imagined we would get to where we are now. And, sorry. I'm having to report to Tim because we were going to announce the winner of the title tonight. We have been working on that, but the problem is that a lot of you guys out there who have subscribed to the channel are private. So, I mean, I know that I know that the mayor is subscribed to the channel. I know Willie Bowen subscribed to the channel, but you guys don't show up on the subscription list. So I have to go through and figure out who is subscribed that isn't part of the channel already. And it's nothing you guys did. It's nothing negative. It's just I want to make sure everyone gets a chance because you guys have been so supportive over the years. Again, our birthday was yesterday, 4 years on this YouTube channel. It took 4 years for us to get to this point, but there is no looking back, and I do have you guys to thank for that. Let's see. Sean Mega says, I am no Bruce Tharp. I don't have the suits, nor the shiny teeth, or the glasses, and nor do I have the desire to. Although I will say this, if I was booking the NWA and I was looking for a manager, I would much rather have Bruce Tharp as a manager than Danny Deals. No offense, Danny. Bruce Tharp is a heat generator. Willie Mack says, or sorry, Mayor says Willie Mack versus Samoa Joe versus WWE. Oh, yeah, Mayor. Yeah, that was the show, Mayor. Yeah, that was the one. You were there. I don't think we've ever met in face to face before, but I'm sure I would know you if you came up to me. Yeah, that's fun. Wow, Willie, this is a great one. Anthony Idol and Blake Bulletproof Troop should be on the NWA Power roster. I just thought that those, just the other day, I was thinking about both those guys and how they would be, to me, a good idea for a feud. Because, they don't really, at least in Southern California, they're very different looking than most of the talents. I mean, Blake Troop is a legit MMA fighter, and he's built pretty big. Anthony Idol's a legit 6'4". Anthony Idol would fit right into the NWA roster if they wanted to use somebody like him. I think he makes a lot of sense, which is probably why they don't use him. Maybe it's too on the nose, but it's a shame, too. He, for a few matches, did face paint and looked just like Sting, and I thought, God dang, that would be great for the NWA. Not so much. No one's really been actively pursuing that. Well, that's a good one too. Doty says waiting for the return of Willie Mack and Sam Shaw in the NWA. I think look, Willie Mack is the perfect example of somebody who makes so much sense for the NWA, but also has a ton of opportunity to do just about anything, right? I mean, he's got opportunities in Japan. He's got opportunities in Mexico. I wouldn't be surprised if he showed up in AEW, although they don't need him. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a part of Ring of Honor, although I don't think they need him. Hell, he can go back to United Wrestling Network and work there on a regular basis. And there's all these fringe wrestling promotions. I mean, let's not forget about Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. They haven't gone anywhere. They're still selling out shows in Hollywood, California. I mean, the Crash Luchas in Mexico. Willie Mack is a regular for that. He could go there. He can go to AAA. I mean, the dude is over in Mexico for sure. So a guy like Willie Mack certainly has options. He's not limited to where he can go. Sam Shaw, and I mean no disrespect to Sam Shaw at all, because I think he would fit in great with the NWA currently too. I don't know that he has the same opportunities, but that's okay. You don't necessarily need those opportunities. Sam Shaw in the NWA works, man. I mean, if he walked into the NWA tomorrow and picked a fight with Jax Dane, would any of you complain about it? Not me. The mayor said had 104-degree fever that day. That was good, man. That was good. Yeah, and the thing about B-Boy is I had no idea that was going to happen either. And there's no video of it either. I was like, oh, man, what about the video? No, it doesn't exist. It just so happened one of the cameramen here in Southern California happened to be at that show, took a photo, and I screenshotted it. I gave him credit the first time, but not the 15th time. Willie Bowen says Watts in the NWA. Now, that's a guy who, again, I think is money. Like, he teamed with the Pope. It was money. It was Watts and Pope versus Effie and Zicky Dice for the Primetime Live that introduced Pope to that universe, introduced the NWA television title to the United Wrestling Network, and afforded the opportunity to have a good match to build to that storyline with Zicky Dice and the Pope, right? That was the biggest storyline that really played out. I mean, the longest storyline, of course, would have been Trevor Murdoch and Aaron Stevens on Primetime Live from the NWA. But this was like really the first storyline that played out where they had more than one match that told a story. And the story was that the Pope felt like Zicky Dice disrespected the NWA and disrespected him in that matchup. So the Pope came and took that belt. And it was a good match. It was a fun match. But Watts was a guy like, you bring him into the NWA, yeah, I don't know what capacity, but he's got size, he's got strength, he's got ability. I mean, he's better as a silent type, I think, than giving promos all the time. But if you get somebody like the Pope to be his manager or his voice, the dude's money. And then Terry McDermott says, happy that Jordan Clearwater has made it to the top. Yeah, for how long though, right? Because he's got a bullseye on his back. You keep hearing about Danny Limelight wants a title shot. You keep hearing about Carl Fredericks ready to take it to the next level. Jordan Cruz wants a shot at the World's Heavyweight Championship, and then you've got Zicky Dice just recently winning the Heritage Championship. You got Papo Esco as your TV champion. I mean, all signs are pointing that Jordan Clearwater has got a bullseye on his back. And then we didn't even talk about Shane Haste or Mikey Nichols or anybody else from New Japan Strong who could potentially come over. And again, that open door policy that we all credit Tony Khan with, I mean, that started in Dave Marquez's NWA territory. He started working with Ring of Honor well before anyone was doing cross-promoting. The only time I've ever seen the Ring of Honor Championship defended in person was Samoa Joe versus Togi Makabe in Santa Monica at the Santa Monica Inoki Dojo. That wasn't an NWA show. That was an Inoki Dojo show, but that was the precursor to what would be Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Man, I am rambling, guys. Willie Bowen says the Gun Show wants a shot at the United Wrestling Network Heavyweight Championship. I mean, the Gun Show's legit, dude. Big guy, very strong. He would be another guy that kind of fits into that whole model of the NWA. I wouldn't hate that either. And Jordan Clearwater, that's the thing. If Jordan Clearwater is going to be your world champion, he's got to defend that title everywhere. I don't think you're going to see it in the NWA, but everywhere else he works, that'd be great to see. But that's going to do it, guys. We're going to wrap it up a little bit early today. I do want to remind you that we will be doing another podcast this afternoon, the hour after Power. Let me pull that comment down. The hour after Power, Jeff Capo refereed matches with Adam Pearce and Damian Wayne, as you see right here in this photograph. He was a referee for the Mid-Atlantic area, had refereed matches for ECW, NWA Virginia, NWA Charlotte, I believe, and has overall been an important part of the NWA back in that Bob Trowbridge era of the NWA. We call that the Pro Wrestling Organization era. And when he left when the NWA split ways with the Bob Trowbridge era and it became the Bruce Tharpe era, Jeffrey was still calling matches, still calling the action, and a lot of fun. I think we'll have a lot of fun talking to him, and I hope you guys will join us for that. Of course, we hit 1,000. If you are subscribed to this channel, but you know that your settings don't reflect that, please send me a DM, whether Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Let me know, because I want you to be included. You have an opportunity to win a replica championship similar to this, but not this one. This one's mine. That's the British Commonwealth title, but you can win a replica of the NWA Dome Globe Championship. We call that the 10 pounds of gold, or the Royal Crown Championship. That's now that design is being used for the junior heavyweight title ship. Our friend NWA Gold will be with us, I think, next week. We'll make the announcement next week, next Tuesday. And one of you subscribers, hopefully someone that actually comes to the show every week, is going to have a shot to win that title. So let's make sure it's you. Make sure that you send me those DMs. Make sure that I know that's you. Some of you guys are good, but if you have any suspicions, send me a message just so we're good. Paladin, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Willie, I'll see you Thursday. Everybody, again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the show. Got to get rid of your comment there, Paladin. All right, guys, enjoy Power, and we'll see you at the Oh, wait, I lost it. Wait. There it is, at the match. Thanks for checking out the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA Power every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we are the Alliance.